In the meantime, 3 of the 5 retail marijuana dispensaries in Menominee remain closed tonight. Now, as we first told you Saturday, the shutdowns came after a court order.
TV6's Escanaba Bureau reporter Barbara Bellinger walks us through the history of the Menominee marijuana and what comes next.
Friday afternoon, the city of Menominee was court-ordered to ensure that Nirvana, Higher Love, where construction is still continuing on their permanent location today, and Loom are immediately closed to the public. The city has until November 15th at 9:30 in the morning to show why these businesses should be allowed to remain open. The marijuana conflict in Menominee is now 3 years old. In October 2020, the city passed an ordinance approving 2 retail marijuana dispensaries. Rise and the fire station were selected in 2021. Cannabis businesses that didn't make the cut, including Loom, Nirvana Center, and Higher Love, sued. They claimed the selection process was flawed. That lawsuit was dismissed in May of 2023. However, that same month, 6 members of the City Council approved a settlement that issued retail licenses to the losing businesses, and that resulted in the latest lawsuits. Rise and Fire Station sued the city, claiming civil conspiracy. On September 26th, the 41st Circuit Court ordered the city to not issue more marijuana licenses and to maintain the status quo. And on Friday, the court found the city failed to comply with the terms of the original injunction. The city must now either show cause why the injunction should not be issued or keep the doors of the 3 businesses shuttered. City Attorney Matthew Cross said in a statement, "We are disappointed by the court's ruling, and we will be filing a motion to dissolve the temporary restraining order entered Friday afternoon." He did not comment on the city's plan to meet the November 15th hearing deadline to show cause. The court order made clear that this is not a final order and the case is not closed. Barbara Bellinger, TV6 News, Menominee.